Feinstein's very controversial. We'll call it the torture report, but it was an investigation on the techniques, committed through the Bush administration. What is your opinion, first of all, about the report?
I think it was a pretty one-sided effort. If you look at who put the report together, it was Democratic staffers assembled the report. There wasn't a lot of contribution from Republicans on that committee. Additionally, the report, I would say, was one-sided to the extent that if you're going to investigate something, it would probably be a good idea to interview those who were partaking in those efforts, whether it be the administrators who were in charge of the program, whether it be the interrogators who were using those techniques. Well, they were not brought in and interviewed. So how can you say it's a balanced report if you don't even interview the people who were engaging these techniques in the first place? The question you need to ask is, if there was no Guantanamo Bay, had never been opened, if had never been any enhanced interrogation techniques, no Senate report, would the Islamic State still be beheading people? The answer is yes, no question.
Feinstein relies finally on the American values, stating that no amount of intelligence justifies sacrificing our values by harming any terrorists. As far as that, we just don't do this. Any kind of interrogation that is deemed other than just conversational?
I think you should use all means you possibly can. Now, there's some debate over what would be described as terror. As torture, and what would not be. I think that it's a delicate balance, I suppose is the best way to describe it. In terms of, the other thing is that in terms of the enhanced interrogation techniques, I think that these and other techniques were used in combination over a long period of time. And I might agree with the argument that they didn't produce immediate intelligence, because they didn't. The intelligence, for example, that was used to ultimately track down and eliminate Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan, which occurred through a SEAL operation in May of 2011, came about as a result of years and years over two administrations of the extraction of intelligence. Some through enhanced interrogation techniques, some not. But I think the combination of those two was beneficial over time. The other thing is, in order to deal with an organization such as that, has a lot to do with gathering human intelligence. If one wants to compare, for example, the Bush administration, we've talked about that approach. We used to enhance interrogation techniques to try to produce some human intelligence from individuals in those organizations. The Obama administration has taken an approach that doesn't rely a great deal or place a great deal of emphasis on the human intelligence side. However, even if you talk in moral terms, I would say that the Obama administration's approach, which is using drone strikes to kill leaders of those organizations, their families, and anyone unfortunate enough to be caught in the crossfire, has done just about as much damage in terms of our position and our perception in the communities where those bombs are falling as enhanced interrogation techniques ever did.
There were many in the administration who believe and fall back on the premise that they were dealing with enemy combatants and not actual POWs captured on the battlefield who are to be treated under the Geneva Code. That being said, the Bush administration also believed that they were erring on the side of better judgment and did in fact not do anything that would be deemed illegal in a military court. Can you just give me a little overview on how you think the Bush administration dealt with the whole enhanced interrogation program?
I think it was all about trying to get information at a very dangerous time in American history. In the aftermath of the attacks of 9/11, there was a lot of concern that there might be a similar type of attack, so all necessary means to extract information from those captured in the confrontation against Al-Qaeda. And principally, most of the folks that wound up in Guantanamo Bay were captured on the battlefield in Afghanistan. I would say that enemy combatants is the more appropriate description for them. Technically, we were not at war, and it's you don't have I wouldn't call them prisoners of war. The other thing is that the tactics they used were not the tactics of an ordinary army. They were, in many cases, terrorist attacks against civilians.
Where do you think we should go moving forward? I mean, a lot of this was based on the United States Army Field Manual. Is this something that needs to be updated? Did the Bush administration just bend the laws and take advantage of it? Or is this just strictly political ballyhoo? And the reality is, war is hell. And in order to defend ourselves, there are certain measures we have to take. Otherwise, it would not be war.
I would make a good point in terms of war being hell. Whether you're in a confrontation with a terrorist organization such as Al-Qaeda or God forbid, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, which is far worse than Al-Qaeda, or a traditional foe, such as, for example, Nazi Germany in World War II. You could take the perspective that some of the actions the United States took in World War II could be defined as terrorism. Firebombing of cities, including civilians, is a perfect example. You have to say, well, what's the greater good? In the end, we were able to defeat Nazi Germany more expeditiously than perhaps we would have otherwise.